She staggered as her foot struck the stone at the village entrance, dust rising around her ankles, her breath sharp and uneven from the long journey. Before anyone could ask who she was, she lowered herself to her knees and pressed her palms to the earth. "I greet the land," she said softly. The laughter came quickly. "Did you see that?" a young man scoffed, nudging his friend. "Who greets soil like a living thing?" Another voice added, louder, crueler. "She must be from the bush. Only bush people speak to dirt." The woman did not look up. She waited until the murmurs faded, then stood slowly, her wrapper torn at the hem, her feet cracked and dusty. Her eyes were calm. Too calm for someone who had walked for days under the sun. "I seek work," she said. "And a place to rest." The village of Amuniku was not used to strangers. It was a proud village, its barns full, its river wide and generous, its people certain that the ancestors favored them above others. Outsiders were watched carefully, measured, judged. An elderly woman clicked her tongue. "What tribe are you from?" The woman hesitated, only briefly. "I am from where the land still remembers names," she replied. The crowd laughed again. "What kind of answer is that?" a man shouted. "Does she think she's a spirit?" "No," another said. "Spirits smell better than this." The insult stung, but the woman's face did not change. She bowed her head. "I will work harder than I speak," she said quietly. That was how she entered the village, without anger, without defense, without explanation. By evening, she was led to the compound of Ogbuefi, a wealthy farmer known for his generosity when it pleased him. His wives stood at the doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "So this is the one they brought?" the first wife asked, wrinkling her nose. "She doesn't even lift her eyes." The woman knelt immediately. "Mother." The second wife laughed. "She calls us mother already. Does she think respect will hide her?" "Smell." The woman said nothing. Mori studied her for a moment, then waved his hand dismissively. "Give her the corner hut. If she can work, she can stay. If she cannot, she leaves." "Thank you," the woman said, bowing low. That night, as drums echoed faintly from another compound, the wives gathered near the fire. "She didn't even say where she came from," one said. "Because she's ashamed," another replied. "Look at her hands. Too soft for real farming. She thinks silence makes her mysterious. It makes her suspicious." Inside the hut, the woman sat cross-legged, eyes closed, palms resting on her knees. She whispered words no one heard, words older than the village itself. Morning came fast. Before the cock crowed a second time, she was already awake, fetching water, sweeping the compound, grinding grain. When insult came, she accepted it. When orders came, she obeyed them. "Stranger," the youngest son called out one afternoon. "Why do you walk like you are counting your steps?" She smiled faintly. "Because each step listens." He frowned. "You talk like an old woman." At the stream, women whispered loudly when she approached. "She bathes too slowly," one said. "Or maybe she hides dirt with patience. I heard her tribe eats rats. Is she even from this land?" One afternoon, as she returned with firewood, a child blocked her path. "My mother says you bring bad luck," the child said bluntly. The woman knelt to his height. "Your mother speaks from fear, not from truth. Are you a witch?" She shook her head. "No. I am a keeper." "A keeper of what?" The woman paused. "Of promises people forget." The child ran away screaming. That evening, the wives mocked her openly. "She talks in riddles now," the first wife said, clapping her hands in exaggerated awe. "Next she will tell us she speaks to ancestors. Maybe that's why she smells of old things." The woman lowered her eyes and continued pounding yam. Days passed. Then weeks. She never raised her voice. Never complained. Never defended herself. But she noticed things. She noticed that the shrine near the river was cracked and neglected. She noticed that offerings were made without proper greetings. She noticed that kola nuts were thrown carelessly, not presented with prayer. She noticed that elders no longer poured libation with full names, only shortened words. At dawn, when no one watched, she corrected small things. She rearranged stones. She whispered apologies to the earth. She poured water slowly, respectfully. One morning, the eldest wife caught her kneeling near the shrine. "What are you doing there?" she demanded. The woman stood immediately. "Greeting." "Greeting who?" "The land." The wife laughed loudly. "This land belongs to us, not to you. Don't bring your village nonsense here." The woman bowed. "Forgive me." But that same day, the yam leaves began to yellow. "Too much sun," Mori said dismissively. The next morning, fish floated belly up in the river. "Bad omen," someone whispered. The elders gathered, muttering among themselves. During preparations for the upcoming festival, tension filled the air. The festival was sacred, a renewal of the village's bond with the ancestors. If anything went wrong. "Stranger," the second wife snapped. "Bring water." The woman came running. "Do not step near the shrine tonight," the wife warned. "You will pollute it." The woman paused, her eyes lifting for the first time, steady and deep. "It is already polluted." Silence fell. "What did you say?" the wife demanded. The woman lowered her gaze again. "Nothing, mother." That night, the drums sounded wrong. Not broken, just uneasy. The fire refused to catch. And somewhere beneath the ground, something ancient stirred. The next morning, the river pulled back from its banks as if offended. Where water once lapped gently against smooth stones, mud cracked under the sun, and fish flapped helplessly in shallow pools. People gathered, murmuring. "This has never happened," an elder whispered. "The river fed our fathers," another said. "Why would it turn its back on us now?" From the edge of the crowd, the woman watched in silence, her hands folded in front of her. A child tugged at her wrapper. "Why are the fish dying?" the child asked. She answered carefully. "Because no one asked them to stay." The child frowned, confused, then was pulled away by his mother. By midday, the crops began to fail in earnest. Yams softened in the ground, cassava leaves curled inward, and a sour smell rose from the farms. Mori stormed into his compound, anger sharp on his face. "Who offended the ancestors?" he demanded. "Which of you failed in your duties?" The wives looked at one another. "It must be the stranger," the second wife said quickly. "Since she came, things have not been right." "Yes," the first wife agreed. "She was touching the shrine. I saw her." All eyes turned to the woman. She stepped forward and knelt. "I touched nothing that was not already crying." "Listen to her mouth," the wife snapped. "Always riddles." An elder arrived, leaning heavily on his staff. "Call the council," he said. "This matter is bigger than one household." By evening, the village square was full. Elders sat in a semicircle, faces drawn tight with worry. Drums were silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The woman stood at the edge, unnoticed at first. "We have angered the ancestors," one elder declared. "But how?" another asked. "We still hold festivals. We still bring offerings," a third said. "Offerings without respect are insults," a quiet voice said. They turned. The woman stepped forward slowly. "You?" someone scoffed. "You will speak now." She bowed to the elders. Forgive my boldness. Speak, the eldest said reluctantly. You pour libation without calling full names, she said gently. You rush greetings. You step on sacred ground with careless feet. You forgot the covenant. The elders bristled. And you remember it? One asked sharply. A stranger? The woman met his eyes. I was taught to remember what others choose to forget. Angry murmurs rippled through the crowd. She insults us. She claims wisdom over elders. Who is she really? Before anyone could stop him, a young man shouted, If you know so much, fix it. The woman looked toward the shrine. The fire pit lay dark, cold. I cannot fix what I am forbidden to approach, she said. The elders hesitated. Pride wrestled with fear. Finally, the eldest elder spoke. Let her try. If nothing changes, she leaves this village before sunrise. The woman bowed deeply. That is fair. She walked to the shrine barefoot. Every step was deliberate. She knelt, pressed her forehead to the ground, and spoke, not loudly, but clearly. We have forgotten you, she said. But forgetting does not break bonds. Pride does. She poured water slowly, naming ancestors one by one, full names echoing through the square. The air thickened. The wind shifted. A crack sounded from the ground. The fire sparked. Someone screamed. The flame rose, steady and bright. The river groaned in the distance. Then, slowly, water surged back into its path. Crops straightened. A deep hush fell over the village. The elders stood, trembling. Who are you? The eldest whispered. The woman turned to them, eyes shining. Not with triumph, but sorrow. I am a custodian, she said. My people were entrusted with memory. When one land forgets, another must remind. The elders dropped to their knees. Forgiveness was asked. Forgiveness was given. The woman did not smile. That night, as peace settled back into the village, she packed her few belongings. At dawn, the child from before found her at the village edge. Are you leaving? He asked. She nodded. My work here is done. Will you come back? She looked at the land one last time. If they remember, they will not need me. She stepped onto the road, silent as she had arrived. She did not get far before the sound of hurried footsteps reached her. Wait. She stopped, but did not turn. It was the eldest elder, breathless, his staff shaking in his hand. Behind him came others, men, women, even children, faces no longer hard with pride but cracked open with fear and wonder. You cannot leave like this, the elder said. Not after what you have done. The woman finally turned. I did not do it, she said gently. I only reminded what was already listening. The elder swallowed. Then stay. Teach us. Help us remember. She looked past them, toward the village. Toward the farms already breathing again, the river murmuring softly, the shrine glowing with quiet dignity. Memory cannot live where pride still sits on the throne, she said. A murmur of shame passed through the crowd. One of the wives stepped forward, the first wife, the one whose tongue had been sharpest. Her eyes were wet. I mocked you, she said, her voice breaking. I called you names. I measured you by tribe, by smell, by silence. Forgive me. The woman walked to her and took her hands. You spoke what the village taught you. Forgiveness is not heavy for me. The second wife fell to her knees. I blamed you for our fear. Please, forgive us. The woman helped her up as well. Children gathered closer now, curiosity replacing fear. The same child from before tugged her wrapper again. You said you are a keeper, he whispered. Who will keep us when you go? The woman knelt so they were eye to eye. The land will keep you, she said. If you listen. Mori stepped forward last. His shoulders were slumped, his voice low. My house dishonored you. Stay. This village needs you. For the first time since she arrived, the woman hesitated. Very well, she said finally. I will stay for 1 season. Relief washed over the crowd. But staying did not mean comfort. She refused gifts. Refused titles. Refused special treatment. She worked alongside them, correcting gently, teaching through example. Slow your greeting, she would say. Say the full name. Do not rush what feeds you. Some listened. Some resisted. Old habits do not loosen their grip easily. One evening, months later, the village gathered again at the shrine. This time, the greetings were careful. The offerings respectful. The silence intentional. The woman stood at the back. The fire burned steady. The river sang. The land answered. That night, the eldest elder dreamed. He saw the woman standing among shadows of ancestors, her form blending with theirs. You were sent, he whispered in the dream. We are sent when forgetting becomes loud, a voice replied. By morning, he knew. He gathered the village. She will leave after the harvest, he announced. That was always the agreement. There was protest. Fear. What if we forget again? What if disaster returns? The woman stepped forward. Then you will remember again, she said. And that will be your work. The harvest came, abundant, steady, earned. On the morning she was to leave, the village stood in silence as she walked the familiar path toward the entrance. No laughter followed her now. Only respect. The child ran to her one last time. Will we ever see you again? She smiled, soft and small. You see me every time you greet properly. She stepped onto the road and did not look back. Years later, elders would tell the story. They would say, she entered in silence, and we mistook it for weakness. They would warn, do not measure wisdom by noise. They would teach their children, the land listens, even when you do not. And the village of Amuniku never forgot again. Because they learned too late, but not too late enough, that a gentle spirit may carry the weight of generations. If this story moved you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more powerful African folktales, and share your thoughts in the comments. What lesson did this story teach you? Thank you for listening, and remember, do not mock what you do not know.